well, certainly he's under massive pressure at the moment. No one likes to hear the end of games booing, and and I think Stuart Pearce hit the nail on the head. He's chopping and changing his team at the moment. He don't really know what his best side is. He's been struggling in front of goal, but he's got plenty of players to pick from. Obviously they've gone into the market, bought lots and lots of players. Now it's finding the best team who play as a team. And Stuart's right. There's too many individuals at the moment. They're not all. There's no team ethic there at this present time. But that does take time. When you're bringing in lots of new players, you've got to learn about the players very, very quickly. But what I don't think Chelsea fans like is that after the game, the post-match interviews, where he doesn't show that much passion. I know some managers are all different, we all know that, but it's how you come across in that dressing room and how the players are responding to him. I don't know. I mean, that's the big question. If you start losing the players, then you've got a real big problem. But you want to see a little bit more passion. You want to see it's not good enough. This is Chelsea Football Club. At Brighton, you can get away with losing 2 or 3 games, but at Chelsea you can't because of their history, what they've won in recent years. And he knew that when he went there. I do believe he will get a little bit more time, though. I do believe. I don't. Again, who comes into the club?
Well, let's ask someone in the know, because the Athletics Chelsea correspondent Simon Johnson is on the line now. Good morning, Simon.
Morning, Simon.
Morning, Laura. Morning, Ray.
Morning. Thanks for joining us. You heard what Ray had to say there. Do we know, does he have the backing of the board?
Well, it's a tough act to follow with Ray, because he's kind of nailed it, really.
Sorry, Simon.
So I'll be going. No, he does. Yes, he does have the backing of the board. He's not going anywhere. He will get at least into next season. I think sort of having Ray on is perfect at this stage, because they sort of see in Graham Potter perhaps a Mikel Arteta situation. Although I hasten to add, Arteta won the FA Cup very soon into his tenure. But of course, there were times where Arsenal fans weren't too happy with Arteta, and you often heard trust the process, and you're hearing very similar language coming out of Chelsea Football Club, and they look at where Arteta and Arsenal are at now and sort of think, well, history can repeat itself. But I don't think you should ever underestimate fan power, or perhaps the toxicity that an atmosphere can bring. And I think what we saw on Saturday was just a taste of what could come if results continue to be disappointing. And the next few games are incredibly massive. They provide an opportunity for Potter on one hand to repair some of the damage, but it could also make things an awful lot worse. So Chelsea have 2 traditional rivals in their history, that there are teams that they want to beat more than any other, regardless of where they are in the league table. And that is Tottenham and Leeds United. And that's who they face in their next 2 league games. And then after that, it's Borussia Dortmund at home in the Champions League. And look, if the results in the next 2 games are positive, then things will quieten down a little bit. But if they're not, I think, like I said, what we heard on Saturday is just the tip of the iceberg.
Simon, give me, in your experience of covering football and the many years that you've gone to press conferences and interviewed managers, how important is the way a manager speaks to the media, and how that transfers through to fans? And does it mean less as long as the results are coming? Do you know what I mean with this? Because he's getting a lot of stick, isn't he, for the way that he presents himself?
I think it only becomes an issue when you're having the kind of run of form that Chelsea are in right now. Because if you're not that inspirational in front of a camera lens, regardless of what I think, etc., is what the fans think first and foremost. And you've got to remember that Chelsea fans have been spoilt by very outspoken managers in their successful past. You're talking, well, for starters, Graham Potter has succeeded Thomas Tuchel, who is one of the best media personalities Chelsea and even the Premier League have ever had. The man was speaking about issues that no manager has ever had to deal with. We're talking about sanctions and so on. And he was out there fighting for Chelsea Football Club in one of the most difficult periods of their history. And then, of course, Graeme has a different way of articulating himself. And, you know, it is definitely a bugbear with Chelsea supporters that he doesn't come across as someone that is sort of that exciting to listen to. And when the team is playing like they are, the two go hand in hand. But at the same time, he is what he is. We saw this at Brighton. He was never the greatest media personality then either. He's a very nice man, and there have been the odd times where he's shown how he truly feels. I think he presents a different persona with the players behind the scenes, and in front of us, he's very sort of straight down the middle. He wants to show that, you know, things aren't going to get to him. I thought the way he handled one of the questions on Saturday, where he was asked about fans thinking he's the worst manager in the club's history, a really, really tough question when you've got the camera lens in front, you know, sort of showing your reaction. I thought he handled that with great grace. And you could go back and say Carlo Ancelotti was not the most outspoken manager in the world. He handled everything very, very sort of calmly, and he proved to be very successful. But of course, when Ancelotti was in charge of Chelsea, he had a massive CV to back up everything he was doing. Whereas Graham Potter has yet to win anything of great significance in his career. So I don't know whether I've answered your question or...
Yeah, no, you have, definitely. So much so that we've run out of time. But that was brilliant. Thank you, Simon. I really appreciate your time. And I'm sure we will speak to you more throughout the season. Thank you so much, The Athletic's Chelsea correspondent Simon Johnson there. So Simon, just wrapping up what you were saying, reports are saying that he has the backing of the board.
The fans are
season.
the ones, aren't they? I'd go back to Arsene Wenger. The last bit of his reign at Arsenal. Yeah. Fans weren't turning up. They was booing, and in the end, the board had to make that big decision.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods, Monday to Wednesday morning 6 till 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.